commit to the play and don't feel like you're the worst one in the class.
It's really cool to kind of see them think outside of the box.
Sometimes those criticisms aren't necessarily right.
It's a great idea, but it has to be educational.
Here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Green Room. I'm your host, Wesley Schofield, and today we are talking tech and makerspace and gaming with our very own Isaac
Garay.
Okay. So the first question I just want to hop into immediately is just explain to them what you do here.
Well, I'd like to think I'm just an IT computer technician guy, but I do so much more here at the studio. I have basically taken on the responsibilities of smARTMAKER, which used to be mainly managed by Mary DeGrazia, which also had a podcast. She's one of the first ones, right?
I think she was the first one.
Yeah, the very first one. And so now I try to come up with the ideas for projects, and I organize the parts. I put the kits together. I try my best to get all that done before, like, the week before it starts, so that you can get some marketing done for it. It's kind of hard though with everything else that I do. I manage the website, so I'm keeping the events up to date, make sure the information is accurate. I can never remember what I put on there, so I always have to check it.
There's so much.
Also with the movies, keep the posters there, the movie times and dates and stuff. I also basically anything that deals with technology here, managing the computers, updating the software, anything that a computer technician does, that's basically what I do here. There's probably more, but I can't think of anything that off the top of my head.
Yeah, probably. So I just want to know what kind of, what time frame, like how old you were, and what was the starter to what got you into technology?
I was starting to get into PC gaming towards the middle or end of my senior year in high school. Before I had a PS3, a Wii, just all the basic consoles. I originally was a PC gamer on my dad's laptop. Anyone who has heard of Star Siege Tribes, that was my first shooter on the PC, and I was really in love with it. It was really fun. Basically a jetpack shooter is what it would be called.
Yeah.
And from then went to my sister's Super Nintendo, and then my brother's PS1, my sister's Xbox. It's all my sibling stuff. I never had my own stuff. Had a PSP, a Game Boy Advance, a DS original. And going back up to my senior year, I really wanted to get my own gaming PC. At that point, I wasn't comfortable with building my own. But I ended up saving enough money, selling my old electric guitar, and getting myself an Alienware Alpha, which is like a very small, really console-like box, about the same power as a PS4. And I was blown away by all the customization that you can do on a PC. And I realized the base model that I bought, it was the cheapest option, like around $400. I couldn't play a few games that I really wanted to, like PlanetSide 2. It needed more RAM. I only had 4 gigs, and 8 gigs was recommended. So did my research, went online on Amazon, got a 8 gig to 4 gig sticks of RAM kit. I opened up my PC. I was so scared. I thought I was going to like short something out or statically shock something and kill it. But I took out the old RAM, put in the new RAM, booted it up, and realized that I just did my first upgrade. And from then on, that just kind of kick-started my drive for PC building and stuff like that, which is my main hobby now. I love building PCs, upgrading hardware. That's what I prefer to do.
You built this one right behind us, actually.
Yep.
And several of the other machines in the office. And you've kind of built a machine for almost everyone that works at the company at this point. Like, geez, everyone's coming to you.
The first one I built was Amanda's, I think, her office PC. And then the 4 beefed up office PCs that Josh and Gary now use. And, of course, the VR machine behind us right now.
So gaming definitely was the jump starter for you. And I've noticed after watching you build a lot of these, you are very, very thorough. What kinds of, like, education were you, like, finding these from? Just online tutorials, or were you taking classes, reading books? Like, how did you know what to do?
Everything at the beginning was YouTube, some articles online, just random tech stuff that I could find. Eventually, I did go to college and took 2 semesters of a PC class. The curriculum was pretty out of date though. It was like in the early 2000s. So I had some arguments with the professor a few times. I knew I was right, but I didn't want to like drop my grade. Most of it was YouTube, basically.
Awesome. Okay. And so I've heard you say this a few times, and I want you to really elaborate on it, that PC building and technology in general is Legos for adults.
It's gotten to the point nowadays where you can, as long as you do the research, you know that the parts are compatible, you can get all the parts together. Everything is labeled, everything is keyed. Like certain cables might look the same, but they're not going to fit into the wrong slot because they have like a filled in hole or something. Everything has a place. And as long as you follow the directions, you'll be putting together, you'll have the Lego bits put together into a sculpture, basically, which is the PC.
Gotcha. So maybe from the outside looking in, tech wouldn't be very creative because it's very analog. It's just like plug here, do this, do whatever. But watching you figure out the makerspace projects is very problem-solving heavy, a lot of trial and error. What do you think the creativity is in a makerspace environment?
There's no one way of building a project for Makerspace. And the creativity comes when you look at it with your own personal perspective. You know what you want to happen, like you know what you want to happen, and you figure out, how do I word this? There's basically just no one way. There's no set definitive way. There's no correct way of doing it. As long as you get it working, it's good, and you can do that in a certain, like, various number of ways.
Interesting.
It just comes to personal taste, I guess.
Yeah.
There was one project that I made. You saw the handy pot, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be our next SMARTMAKER project. So I needed something that had personality. I needed something that was basically a robot, but not really, because it's just doing a fixed number of commands in a loop. So I said, well, let me just get 3 servos, and that'll serve as 3 axes, and put them together, build a Lego structure around it that makes it look like it's very important, even though it's not. Just give it that style, give it that personality, have it move in certain ways that makes it seem like it's actually waving at a kid, or, you know, like looking up and down, like checking you out, and, you know, observing you as if it had sensors, even though it doesn't.
Yeah.
It's like, that was one of my proudest projects, because I knew what I wanted to do. I didn't know exactly how, but I just threw things together, and it actually turned out to be a pretty good project, and kids thought it was really great.
That's awesome. Because I've noticed, especially when we go out to these other schools or when the kids come in, like, you explain, like, hey, this does some lights, this does some sound, but you can kind of play with it. And the immediate, like, curiosity that they just, like, comes out is insane. Because you would think with, like, circuit boards and all this, like, coding stuff, it sounds way too complicated for anyone to, you know, just pick up and do. But the way we've been teaching it and presenting it to kids seems like it's just a toy innately. And so you plug it in, you start coding, and this light does this, now it makes this sound, and everyone immediately tries to make the most complicated music all the time. But like with I think it was the bubble blowing machines with Cochise, that was so cool to watch, like 4 or 5 groups make entirely different things, and they all worked out eventually. But that problem solving I really like.
That project was probably the best one that we can do for Cochise classes, those couple of times that we've done it. The first time we had it with the 8th graders last year, it was amazing to see the creativity and them building the Lego structure to, like, place the wand here with the servo, place the fan here, see if that'll work. If it doesn't work, move it closer, move it further away, move it to the side, whatever. And, like, have them, the 8th graders this year, actually, someone made a duck. I thought that was interesting. Like, the nose was the fan, and the wand would just go in front of it, and the duck was blowing bubbles. That was kind of cool.
That's amazing.
Whenever something didn't work, there was a group of boys last year in the 8th grade that one of the motors, I think, Yeah, it was the motor. The motor did not want to spin whatsoever. And come to find out, the wire that was attaching to the alligator clip, which then was attaching to the circuit board, was not delivering the power that it needed to. So they bypassed that by, I don't know, doing something else, or either switching the wire or just like plugging it straight into the motor. I don't know exactly how they did it. I don't remember. But they realized that that was the issue themselves, and they fixed it. And the trial and error, the troubleshooting, and the creativity of that project was really well balanced. And sometimes a project is more coding focused, and sometimes it's more design focused, like engineering focused. That one, it was both. Like they were in perfect harmony. With the coding, they were going back and forth, adjusting the angles. Like, maybe that angle is a little bit too much, so tweak it a little bit. Or if that didn't work and they exceeded the range of the servo, they just manually moved it mechanically to where it would be in the right spot, and then do it again. And it was really nice.
That's so cool. So if I'm, let's say, I think I'm kind of into technology, but I'm intimidated, like what's a good at-home thing I could do myself to see if like I'm up to par to take on a computer or to build like a type of little robot?
There are a couple of different ways that you can go. So the majority of the projects that we do here involve the Circuit Playground Express, which is really kid-friendly and really beginner-friendly. It went off again.
Oh, well.
Beginner-friendly because it the interface is like basically puzzle pieces, drag and drop, and it is designed with kids in mind. It is very colorful, very intuitive, and it's probably the most basic, and not, you can do a lot more with it if you get more into Circuit Python coding, but if not, you have that foundation, like you have that beginner entry level thing that you can do. Another route you can go is through Arduino compatible hardware, because there's a lot of documentation, there's a lot of tutorials on that online, and it's probably a step above MakeCode, but it is, they also have their own sort of drag and drop interface that is not quite as easy, but still easy enough to where a beginner can get into it.
So kids and, I mean, adults even, who don't live in this area, but listen to this and they might want to try it, how much would it cost to get into some of this?
With Circuit Playground Express, one by itself would be like around $25. Or if you buy a kit that has a battery pack and a USB cable and the circuit board itself, is around $30. Arduino is a lot cheaper though. I've seen some Arduino Nano clones, like 3 of them, that are $8. So 3 separate ones that are just $8 altogether with cables and everything. If you're going for price, Arduino is probably the best way to go. If you're going for ease of use, the Circuit Playground Express, I would recommend.
Awesome. Okay. So tell me about VR. We all kind of rely on you as the VR kind of guy, but what is VR? If anyone doesn't know, but what is your favorite thing about VR?
So starting with what is VR? No, VR as an acronym stands for virtual reality. So reality, but not real. Whoa. I know, like, wow, blows your mind. It's basically the Matrix.
Okay.
But not that far yet. So current modern day VR is basically just strapping a headset to your head and getting the visual, the audio, is that a word?
Audio, yeah, sure.
I'll say audio. If that's not a word, someone smack me. And to some extent, the physical senses as well. So those 3 senses are being applied to trick you into believing that you're in another world. So if anyone has heard of the Oculus Quest, that is probably the current best entry-level VR headset that you can buy, because it gives you the full experience that you would with a PC in a self-contained, completely standalone device that doesn't require any other hardware.
That one's the wireless one, yeah?
Yes. And the reason why I say the Quest and not the Go or not some cheap VR phone headset thing is because it's the only one, not the only one, it's the only good one that is standalone, and you're able to walk around in a room. Like, you get the full 6 degrees of freedom, 3 of them being rotational, that way, and that way. pitch, yaw, and roll, and the other three being positional X, Y, and Z movement. So you get that full immersive experience, like walking around your room, walking around a virtual space. And there's also quite a bit of content to be had on the Oculus Quest store. If you want to get a good workout, I recommend Beat Saber.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So us getting ready for this Beat Saber competition coming up eventually.
March 21st, I think.
Yes. So, this will be out by then.
Yeah.
So everyone get hyped for that. Us trying to record the promotional material for that, you're clearly the best one at the game. I mean, no one else really plays it, but
No one else here, at least. There is one kid who might be at my level or above my level somewhere in the schools.
dude, playing that game for 5 seconds is exhausting immediately. And then I watch you play for like 30 minutes at a time. You're going nuts. What's your favorite thing about VR? Just like, because when I play it, it's the most immersive kind of experience ever. I mean, like I have a decent gaming headset at home, but everything else is very button pushy analog. And when you play in VR, it's just you really do kind of believe you're there.
Even with experiences that are not the most photorealistic looking, like for example, Rec Room, it's very cartoony. No one has legs.
No.
But while playing Rec Room, sometimes I have the feeling that I can lean on this ledge, but I don't because I'm smart enough to know that it's not real. But I can, my brain is convinced enough to believe that I can reach out and lean on this ledge or on this wall because it is so immersive. Immersive is like the buzzword, but it's like the only word that you can use to describe the experience. Whenever you're playing a regular video game or even watching a movie, if it's done right, you can have a sort of immersive experience by getting involved in the world that you're playing or watching, getting involved with the story and the characters and like sort of feeling like you're part of that because you're interacting with it. But in VR, it is on a whole nother level because you are in there. You are in the world that you are interacting with.
Things have real scale, and even like playing Skyrim, jumping off of a hill or getting hit by a giant, like like your brain, it's so easily tricked, but you have that gut feeling of like, I'm falling, and like you don't want to do that, and so you avoid certain things. And like even sometimes like in Rec Room or something, just like ducking and kind of peeking around a corner, it's like in any other game, some games have like that kind of button press to do that, but just the innate like instinct to be like boop, like it's something I think people take for granted, but it's like amazing. Do you think VR is the future of games, or do you think it's going to stay in its own niche?
Hard question. If the cost of entry continues to lower, because originally the Vive and the Rift CV1, they came out and they were like $400 or $500 for the headset. Actually, no, the Vive was $8 with the base stations and everything, and the Rift was $6 without any hand controllers at the time, I think. Correct me if I'm wrong. But there was that cost, plus the cost of a VR-ready PC at the time, which was like a GTX 970 and above, and an i5 and above, like a modern i5. Definitely not the most expensive, but like those costs together were really upwards of $1,000, and not everyone besides enthusiasts would want to get involved with that. Nowadays, with the Quest being a thing, that's only $400 for the base model. More people are getting involved with it, and that is the number one highest selling VR headset that I know of, at least.
Oh,
It
wow.
might have beaten the PSVR too. So if the costs go down and the experiences, like the quality of the experiences and the games go up, I feel like it will be the future. Like it'll be an actual gaming medium that developers will go after the more that people adopt it.
Because a part of me, like when the Kinect came out for Xbox, I thought it was neat, but it felt more gimmicky. Same with like the Wii. Like the Wii was really fun. Wii Sports, best game of all time. But the fact that like motion control and like not even having a controller, it felt, I don't know, not as responsive as I would like. Because like in any other game, I like button push, action. Button push, action. It's set. But with VR, especially like with this headset, it feels like that's starting to blend together because it's not just motion controls. It's not just like waving your arms like crazy. Like there's the combination of the button push, which all the way the buttons are arranged on there, beautiful, perfect. Like it's so natural that you don't even have to think about it.
I really like those controllers.
They're amazing.
I've tried the Vive ones. I've tried the Windows Mixed Reality wand things.
Mm-hmm.
Those ones are by far my favorite that I've tried so far. I haven't tried the index controllers yet, which are supposed to be a lot better, but it'll just continue to get better.
How do you think that going forward, let's say even like 5 to 10 years, the blend of VR and just technology in general, like, will be introduced to the public? Because, like, let's say it's something as technical as building your own PC, very hands-on, very careful work. But now that I would say coding, VR, all this stuff is becoming more accessible and a little bit more simple, what do you think our tech interactions are going to be like in 5 to 10 years?
Things will definitely get easier, more streamlined, I would say. Like PC building back in the 90s was nowhere near as simple as it is today. So I think the further that technology gets more integrated, because before, let's say you're building a PC in the past, you need an add-in card for sound, you need an add-in card for networking, you need an add-in card for the display and all that stuff. Now all that is mostly integrated into the motherboard or into the processor itself. So that's less pieces to put together and less things to do, I guess, to get a machine up and running.
Yeah.
I think the same would apply to a lot of technology in general. It'll get more integrated. It'll get just easier to maintain, easier to manage, I guess. I'm probably the wrong person to ask, though, because I'm not the smartest person when it comes to everything tech, despite what people here think.
Yeah, gotcha. Definitely just in the short time of like watching you put together PCs and watching you work on them, like I've learned a lot just by observing, not even actually having to do it. The only thing that always trips me up is terminology. Everyone's always like, yeah, what kind of thing you're running in your PC? I'm like, I don't know.
It's got a thing that spins.
It lights up. It's really cool. So I guess final little statement. If you're, I guess, knowing what you know now about technology and everything, what are maybe some helpful tips you can give to other people?
As far as like learning more or getting involved with it?
Yeah, just like in general, because like we said, like the creativity of makerspace is really amazing, and the ease of just computing in general nowadays is much easier. So with your experience and knowledge, how could you encourage someone else to get into it?
Well, the internet is the largest collection of all of human knowledge and history and stuff. Use it. I got most of my information on the internet, on YouTube, on random tech sites and tech articles and tech publications and stuff like that. If you're really interested, just look it up. If you don't know how to do a specific thing, type how do I do this specific thing. More than likely in the first page on Google or DuckDuckGo or whatever a search engine you use, it'll be there. The answer will be right there because people have asked that question, and people who already know how to do it have answered the question. And the knowledge is readily available to everyone who wants to receive it. And don't be afraid to fail. I don't think I've ever killed a machine whenever I built it. Even my very first one that I built from scratch, I didn't kill it. But I was really careful with it and stuff. But there were machines that I worked on that had something die, or my friend's build, we gathered all the parts together and one of the parts was dead on arrival. So don't be afraid to have things go wrong, and if they do go wrong, learn from it and just continue going forward. One thing that I will say, while it is easy to learn the knowledge, it's probably not as easy to get the funding to get a project going, like putting together a PC. But there are ways around it. There's a bunch of used or not working or like refurbished machines on eBay that you can find, like not new ones, but maybe second gen, first gen Intel parts, or even like old AMD parts that are lying around. People don't really want them anymore because they're so old. But if you really want to get involved with getting technology in general, I'd recommend looking on the used market on eBay and stuff, because there's a lot to find on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sitting down with me. If anyone is interested in what you're doing, I guess online, where could they find you?
Here.
Come to this physical location if you want to see him online.
I'm not very active. I'm not very active on social media, but my email might be on the website somewhere. I'm not sure.
Okay.
My linked email that goes to my personal email, but it's not my personal email.
Okay.
I guess leave a comment down below if you want to get more in touch, but otherwise I'll figure out ways around that to reach out.
Cool. Well, thank you so much. Oh, that was a bad one because of this. Cool.